Let's start with a pretty radical thought. What if the safest place for your money isn't the bank? And what if your biggest asset, your home, isn't actually the great investment you've always believed it to be? Now, that's not coming from me. That's the argument from a man who should know. He's a billionaire, and he's a banker.
So this is the advice from Ricardo Salinas, a guy who built a massive financial empire. I mean, it sounds completely insane, right? Maybe even irresponsible? Sell the very thing that represents security and stability for most people? You gotta admit, it's a fascinating contradiction. A man who runs a bank with millions of customers is basically telling you not to trust the very system that he's a part of. To really get why, we have to try and see the world through his eyes. Okay, so let's dive into this.
Selena's whole argument really kicks off with a fundamental problem he has with the money we all use every single day. And he doesn't just, dislike it. He sees it as something predatory. This is the money in your wallet, the digits in your bank account. Dollars, euros, you name it. Its value isn't tied to anything real or tangible. It's based purely on our trust in the government that prints it. And for Salinas, that trust was broken a long, long time ago. See, his perspective was shaped by a major historical event. Back in 1971, the U.S. completely cut the dollar's last tie to gold. To his family, that was the moment the money became, in his words, a fraud, just an unbacked promise. So for him, this wasn't some abstract economic theory. It was a core belief he grew up with. And here it is, his central metaphor. He sees fiat money as a vampire, secretly and silently just draining the lifeblood from your savings. The value you worked so hard to create is being siphoned away, not in some big market crash, but by the very nature of the currency itself, through inflation. According to Salinas' sources, the U.S. dollar has lost a staggering 99% of its purchasing power since the Federal Reserve was created back in 1913. This perfectly illustrates how the vampire works. It's not one big, fatal bite. It's a slow, steady drain over a lifetime. So gradual, you might not even notice it's happening until it's way too late. But hang on, because Salinas argues that theft goes even deeper than just plain old inflation. He says there's a second, much more hidden crime being committed against your wealth. So we're always told that a little bit of inflation, say 2%, is actually good for the economy. But Salinas, he calls this a double theft. First, inflation acts as a hidden tax that just eats away at the value of your money. But second, and this is the really subtle part, it steals all the wealth that technology should be giving back to us. He uses this really simple analogy. Think about it. 40 years ago, a pretty basic small color TV cost about $400. Today, you can get a gigantic high-def smart TV for the exact same price. Technology made that TV exponentially better for the same number of dollars. That improvement, that drop in real cost is real wealth. It's progress. And this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Innovation is constantly pushing prices down. We should be seeing the cost of almost everything drop, which would make all of us richer. But we don't. That technological progress is being completely canceled out, just eaten up by the constant debasement of our currency. So the vampire isn't just drinking your blood, it's also eating the amazing feast that technology prepared for you. Okay, so if fiat money is the vampire, what's the silver bullet? Well, for Salinas, the solution has to be the complete opposite of fiat, and he argues that solution is Bitcoin. He argues Bitcoin is the perfect antidote for three main reasons. First, he calls it honest money. Its rules are set in code, they're transparent for everyone to see, and no government can just wake up one day and decide to print more of it. Second, it gives power back to you, the individual. With self-custody, you hold it, not a bank, which protects it from the kind of seizure he's worried about. And third, it's got global portability. If you ever need to leave, your wealth isn't tied to a physical place. It goes wherever you go. And all of this brings us right back to that shocking piece of advice from the very beginning. Why on earth sell your house? Well, this is where the logic comes full circle, by comparing real estate not to the dollar, but to Bitcoin. Now, what's really interesting here is how this just reframes the whole idea of a safe asset. In terms of scarcity, yeah, you can always build more houses. But Bitcoin's supply, it's absolutely fixed. For portability, you obviously can't take your house with you, but you can take your Bitcoin anywhere. And for seizability, a house is subject to property taxes and can be confiscated. Self-custodied Bitcoin, on the other hand, is a whole lot harder for any authority to get their hands on. So the conclusion from his framework is pretty clear. A house is essential for living. It gives you shelter and stability,
no question. But when you look at it purely as a financial asset, one that's meant to preserve your wealth against that fiat vampire, he argues it's just outclassed. It's a great place to live, but maybe not the best place to save. And that leaves us with one last provocative thought. If you accept his premise that the financial system is actively working against your wealth, then you have to ask yourself, is the traditional advice still the best advice? Is that brick-and-mortar foundation of your home truly the strongest shield you can hold up? It's a really powerful question, especially coming from someone so deep inside the financial world. If you want to explore his original argument for yourself, you can find the source for this whole analysis linked down in the description. If this explainer got you thinking, be sure to follow, like, and share What Bitcoin Taught Me for more deep dives like this. You can find us across all the major social and podcast platforms, including Twitter/X, Nostr, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Spotify, and now on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in.